This is part 3 of the series, The State of the United States Economy and Society. I'm Edward Dodson. This module is titled Workforce Trends. Well, the population of the United States is aging rapidly. Millions of adults born after the Second World War have been receiving benefits under the Social Security system for more than a decade now. Millions are relatively well off. Millions of others are not. Some percentage remain in the workforce, either in their long-term full-time positions, in second or third careers, or in part-time positions taken for economic or other personal reasons. Immigration and the impact of the new restrictions on immigration are important externalities for the economy. As reported in October of 2024, 168.57 million people comprise the nation's civilian workforce. Of course, not all of these persons are employed. Some are not employed but are looking for work. A 2017 Brookings Institution paper written by Princeton University economics professor Alan Krueger provided one rather tragic part of the story. The opioid epidemic and labor force participation are now intertwined. If we are to bring a large number of people back into the labor force who have left the labor force, I think it's important that we take serious steps to address the opioid crisis. A Brookings University of Southern California report released in 2023 provides an update. A recent study finds that after the 5-year study period, establishments in high opioid growth counties employ fewer people and spend comparatively more on information technology. This suggests that firms might be substituting technology for employees when they are faced with labor shortages and higher per employee costs induced by the opioid epidemic. What about employment and unemployment? When the government announces the official rate of unemployment, this statistic is based on a survey of households taken by the U.S. Census Bureau. They report the percentage of the labor force that is without work but seeking employment. Anyone who responds that they have given up looking for employment is categorized as no longer in the workforce and therefore not unemployed. The number of people employed full-time has been steadily rising since the end of the COVID-19 pandemic. More recently, more normal market, government, and technology-related factors are affecting the demand for workers. The official unemployment rate reported for January of 2025 was 4.0%, or 6.8 million people. The Bureau of Labor Statistics survey indicates the rate of unemployment for persons age 18 and over in January was 3.7% for adult men and women. For whites, the rate was 3.5%, for blacks, 6.2%, for Asians, 3.7%, for Hispanics, 4.8%, and for those still in their teens, 11.8%. 5.5 million people who are unemployed are seeking employment. A broader definition of unemployment, described as U6, indicates that the rate of unemployment in December of 2024 was around 7.4%. This calculation includes the underemployed, the marginally employed, and discouraged workers. However, the analysts at shadowstats.com suggest the number of people who have dropped out of the workforce or are marginally employed is even much larger than what is revealed by the Census Bureau's survey. It must be noted that the methodology employed by Shadow Stats has been challenged as seriously overstating the number of people interested in finding a job but are not included in the workforce statistics. Across the United States, the demand for workers is, as always, uneven. The reasons for this are many. As reported by the Bureau of Labor Statistics for January 2025, Maryland had the lowest rate of unemployment at 1.9%. The situation in Maryland is certain to worsen as the Trump administration continues its efforts to downsize the federal government. As of this writing early in February, it is reported that around 60,000 federal employees have already accepted the administration's buyout offer, subject to a federal court ruling that the measure is legal. Georgetown University Associate Professor of Government Hans Knoll offered some insight into the risks involved as the Trump administration and the Republicans embark on their plan to dramatically reduce the size of the federal government. One of the longest-running conflicts in politics is about the trade-off between how much the government provides in services and how much its citizens must be taxed to pay for those services. And it is absolutely a trade-off. Many of the services we rely on are not always clear before they are restricted. Everything from road maintenance to air traffic control to food inspections are felt when they fail, but we don't notice them when they are working properly. During 2023, employment in clean energy grew at more than twice the rate of the overall U.S. labor market. This was due in large part to record federal investments in energy supply chains. Construction employment in the energy sector was also higher than the overall market. It should be clear that while employment opportunities in renewable energy will continue to increase and may increase rapidly, the demand for oil and natural gas is almost certain to increase rather than decrease. Oil and gas producers report a shortage of labor. In 2022, there were about 152,000 workers in the industry, but by mid-2024, this number dropped to around 141,000. The main reasons given include an aging workforce not being replaced by younger workers. Younger professionals are choosing careers in cleaner energy sectors. Third is a lingering effect from layoffs, furloughs, and a reduction in hiring associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. And finally, significant technological advances are reducing the need for as many workers. Directly related to the energy sector is the manufacturing, sales, and servicing of all the different types of vehicles that exist. There are currently more than 266 million gasoline or diesel-powered vehicles in existence. The number of electric vehicles is projected to reach 2.32 million by 2029. Then there are the heavy construction vehicles needed for construction, mining, material handling, forestry, and landscaping. Each and every day, more than 45,000 flights occur across the United States, carrying around 3 million passengers. The air transport industry employs 11.6 million people directly and an additional 20.4 million people indirectly. This includes jobs for airlines, airports, air navigation services, and civil aerospace. Across the United States, millions of people work full-time but do not earn enough to meet housing expenses and other basic living expenses. Some states have mandated a higher minimum wage for at least some workers. There are a number of concerns expressed by employers whose profit margins are already tight because of competition from lower wage and lower tax locations, domestic and foreign. The cost of living and the cost of doing business across the United States varies significantly. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology has developed a living wage calculator to put the problem in perspective based on where people live. You can access the data for your state or metropolitan area. However, MIT's analysis of the data indicates the disconnect between the cost of living and wage levels is a national problem. An analysis of the living wage, compiling geographically specific expenditure data for food, childcare, healthcare, housing, transportation, and other basic necessities, finds that the minimum wage, $7.25 since 2009, does not provide a living wage for most American families. A typical family of four 2 working adults, 2 children, needs to work nearly 4 full-time minimum wage jobs, a 75-hour work week per working adult, to earn a living wage. The California legislature passed legislation in 2024 increasing the state's minimum wage effective January 1 to $16.50 per hour. Only the District of Columbia has a higher minimum wage at $17.50. A study undertaken by the Center on Wage and Employment Dynamics at the University of California, Berkeley, examined the impact of the higher minimum wage on small businesses, concluding the following. A minimum wage increase doesn't kill jobs. It kills job vacancies, not jobs. The higher wage makes it easier to recruit workers and retain them. Turnover rates go down. Other research shows that those workers are likely to be a little more productive as well. A word of caution is required for those who advocate for an increase in the minimum wage independent of one extremely important other need of families: decent, affordable housing. The economics is easy to understand. Increase the demand side of a market without increasing the supply side, and prices will increase. Thus, for many people whose dollar income has increased by a legislated increase in the minimum wage, the increase will eventually, and almost all markets has been, capitalized into higher rental charges for existing apartments and higher prices for houses suitable for first-time home buyers. To counter market forces, communities will need to commit public funds to subsidize the construction of new affordable rental housing units, as well as permanently affordable properties for owner occupancy. At the same time, there are some sectors of the economy and some regions that have difficulty filling job openings. Low pay, difficult or dangerous working conditions, a shortage of decent, affordable housing, and transportation obstacles all contribute to the problem. Some employers say they have great difficulty finding people with the needed skills and knowledge. Potential candidates may have undesirable criminal records or are found to be using illegal or addictive drugs. The gradual decline in job postings suggests that those currently looking for work will be in greater competition with others, at least in areas where the supply of workers with the necessary education, experience, and skill levels is greater than the demand. Even in those areas where technology skills are essential, the growing generative AI adoption is likely to offset current labor shortage effects. Back in 2016, Bob Bryan of Business Insider reminded readers of the important demographic issues. While the outlook is bright for the younger generation, there will be a transition period as baby boomers and older members of the workforce shift out of the labor market and more millennials hit working age. This will mean the giant gap between experienced workers with the skills for the new jobs America is creating and those available in the labor pool will remain wide for a while. In 2023, there were 64 million people in the United States who were 65 years of age or older, representing 19% of the population. Some of this age group have since died, of course. Others have aged into the group. 24% of the men and 15% of the women ages 65 and older were still in the labor force. 62% of seniors are working full-time. Seniors comprise 42% of those employed by funeral homes and related services. They are 31% of the crossing guards and flaggers and 30% of all school bus drivers. As the years have passed, so has the hourly compensation increased for seniors. Data published by the National Employment Law Project in December 2017 indicated that only 27% of unemployed workers continue to receive unemployment insurance. The author of the report, George Wentworth, explained. While trust fund recovery has accelerated, less than half of all state UI trust funds currently meet the federal standard for recession preparedness. Rather than increase the revenue generated by employer taxes to shore up the trust funds, many states decreased UI payouts through dramatic reductions in weeks of available benefits, stricter eligibility conditions, and harsh new disqualifications. At the same time, some modernized online filing systems are making it harder for many workers to apply for benefits. Today, the National Employment Law Project is committed to strengthening local democracy to ensure workers' rights, support worker organizing, and improve unemployment insurance benefits. Education levels and specialized training have always helped protect people from prolonged periods of unemployment, if not necessarily from underemployment. Data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics was used to prepare this graph, which validates what our intuition would conclude. There is a very strong correlation between formal education, employment stability, and income level. In just 1 month, from December 2024 to January 2025, the unemployment rate for military veterans jumped from 2.8% to 4.2%. A significant cause is the number of federal employees furloughed and laid off, as veterans make up about 30% of the federal workforce. The amount individuals and households are able to save out of current income is directly connected to the ratio of normal expenses to their monthly income. A Bank of America Institute study states that 26% of all U.S. households spend 95% or more of their income on necessities. Included in this statistic, somewhat surprisingly, are 1 in 5 households with incomes above $150,000 a year. As one would expect, around 35% of households earning less than $50,000 are in the living paycheck-to-paycheck group. Roughly 4 in 10 retirees receive more than 50% of their income in the form of Social Security benefits. Another important part of the employment story is the number of adults living with some type of disability. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention reported in 2024 that there were some 70 million adults with some disability in the United States. 2 in 5 adults aged 65 years and older have a disability. 1 in 4 women has a disability. As one would expect, there is a strong relationship between long-term unemployment and the number of people applying for Social Security disability benefits. The Center on Budget and Policy Priorities reports that 62 million people, 1 in every 6 U.S. residents, collected Social Security benefits in 2023. Older Americans make up about 4 in 5 beneficiaries. Another 16% of beneficiaries receive Social Security Disability Insurance, SSDI, or were young survivors of deceased workers. The financial obligations to those now collecting disability insurance benefits are rapidly depleting the reserves of the trust fund. This 2020 chart, the most recent available, indicates the fund will be depleted by 2065. This forecast is an improvement achieved by changes in the program reducing allowable causes for disability claims. An internal audit revealed that Social Security paid out $2 billion from fraudulent disability claims approved by 44 administrative law judges between 2007 and 2014. In response, the Social Security Administration and the Justice Department created the Cooperative Disability Investigation Unit, now operating in 34 states, the District of Columbia, and Puerto Rico. The SSA's Office of the Inspector General reported to Congress that between October 2017 and March 2018, their investigations of fraud resulted in 400 criminal convictions, recovering $40 million. However, a Washington Post investigation during 2023 revealed the imposition of heavy fines on low-income people, elderly people, and those with a disability without examining the individual's ability to pay the fine. So what's next? The bottom line for most Americans is that they are very dependent on continuous employment to make ends meet. Any interruption in employment, even for a short period, can result in indebtedness and even homelessness. Next, we will look at the role of volunteerism and unpaid labor in this story.